A marvelous sun looked down from ecstasy skies on worlds of deathless bliss, perfection's home, magical unfoldings of the eternal smile, capturing his secret heartbeats of delight. God's everlasting day surrounded her. Domains appeared of sempiternal light, invading all nature with the Absolute's joy. Her body quivered with eternity's touch. Her soul stood close to the founts of the infinite. Infinity's finite fronts she lived in, new forever to an everlasting sight. Eternity multiplied its vast self-look, translating its endless mightiness and joy into delight. Souls playing with time could share in grandeurs ever newborn from the unknown depths, in powers that leaped immortal from unknown heights, in passionate heartbeats of an undying love, in scenes of a sweetness that can never fade. Immortal to the rapturous heart and eyes, in serene arches of translucent calm, from wonders a dream vast, cloudless skies slid down, an abyss of sapphire. Sunlight visited eyes, which suffered without pain the absolute ray, and saw immortal clarities of form. Twilight and mist were exiles from that air. Night was impossible to such radiant heavens. Firm in the bosom of immensity, spiritual breaths were seen, sublimely born from a still beauty of creative joy. Embodied thoughts to sweet dimensions held, to please some carelessness of divine peace, answered the deep demand of an infinite sense and its need of forms to house its bodiless thrill. A march of universal power in time, the harmonic order of self-substitutes in cyclic symmetries and metric planes, harbored a cosmic rapturous revelry in an endless figuring of the spirit in things planned by the artist who has dreamed the worlds. Of all the beauty and the marvel here, of all time's intricate variety, eternity was the substance and the source. Not from a plastic mist of matter made, they offered the suggestion of their depths and opened the great series of their powers. Arisen beneath a triple mystic heaven, the seven immortal earths were seen sublime, homes of the blessed, released from death and sleep, where grief can never come, nor any pang, arriving from self-lost and seeking worlds, alter heaven nature's changeless quietude and mighty posture of eternal calm, its pose of ecstasy immutable. Plains lay that seemed the expanse of God's wide sleep. Thought's wings climbed up towards heaven's vast repose, lost in the blue deeps of immortality. A changed art nature felt the breath of peace. Here seemed an ocean of felicity, or the couch of an unknown spiritual rest. A vast quiescence, swallowing up all sound into a voicelessness of utter bliss. Even matter brought a close spiritual touch, all thrilled with the immanence of one divine. The lowest of these earths was still a heaven, translating into the splendor of things divine the beauty and brightness of terrestrial scenes. Eternal mountains, ridge on gleaming ridge, whose lines were graved as on a sapphire plate, and etched the borders of heaven's lustrous noon, climbed like piled temple stairs, and from their heads of topless meditation heard below the approach of a blue pilgrim multitude, and listened to a great arriving voice of the wide treble hymn of timeless seas. A chanting crowd from mountain bosoms slipped past branches, fragrant with a sigh of flowers, hurrying through sweetnesses with rebel leaps. The murmurous rivers of felicity, divinely rippled, honey-voiced desires, mingling their sister eddies of delight. Then, widening to a pace of calm-lipped muse, down many glimmered estuaries of dream, went whispering into lakes of liquid peace. On a brink, held of senseless ecstasy, and guarding an eternal poise of thought, sat sculptured souls, dreaming by rivers of sound, in changeless attitudes of marble bliss. Around her lived the children of God's day in an unspeakable felicity, a happiness never lost, the immortal's ease, a glad eternity's blissful multitude. Around, the deathless nations moved and spoke, souls of a luminous, celestial joy, faces of stark beauty, gleams of the molded ray. In cities, cut like gems of conscious stone, and wonderful pastures, and on gleaming coasts, bright forms were seen, eternity's luminous tribes. Above her, rhythming goddess whirled the spheres, wrapped, mobile fixities here blindly sought by the huge erring orbits of our stars. Ecstatic voices smote at hearing chords. Each movement found a music all its own. Songs thrilled of birds upon unfading boughs, the colors of whose plumage had been caught from the rainbow of imagination's wings. Immortal fragrance packed the quivering breeze. In groves that seemed moved bosoms and trembling depths, the million children of the undying spring bloomed, pure, unnumbered stars of hued delight, nestling for shelter in their emerald sky. Fairy flower masses looked with laughing eyes. A dancing chaos, an iridescent sea, eternized to heaven's ever-wakeful sight the crowding petal glow of marble's tints, which float across the curtained lids of dream. Immortal harmonies filled our listening ear, a great spontaneous utterance of the heights, on Titan wings of rhythmic grandeur borne, poured from some deep spiritual heart of sound, strains trembling with the secrets of the gods. A spirit wandered happily in the wind, a spirit brooded in the leaf and stone. The voices of thought-conscious instruments along a living verge of silence strayed, and from some deep, a wordless tongue of things, unfathomed, inexpressible, chantings arose, translating into a voice the unknown. A climber on the invisible stair of sound, music, not with these few and striving steps, aspired that wander upon transient strings, but changed its ever new, uncounted notes in a passion of unforeseen discovery, and kept its old, unforgotten ecstasies, a growing treasure in the mystic art. A consciousness that yearned through every cry of unexplored attraction and desire, it found and searched again the unsatisfied deeps, hunting as if in some deep secret heart to find some lost or missed felicity. In those far-lapsing symphonies she could hear, breaking through enchantments of the ravished sense, the lyric voice of a divine soul, mid spume and laughter, tempting with its brow the charm of innocent Circean isles, adventures without danger beautiful in lands where siren wonder sings its lures from rhythmic rocks in ever-foaming seas. In the harmony of an original sight, delivered from our limiting ray of thought, and the reluctance of our blinded hearts to embrace the Godhead in whatever guise, she saw all nature marvelous without fault. Invaded by beauty's universal revel, her being's fibre reached out vibrating and claimed deep union with its outer selves, and on the heart's chords made pure to seize all tones, heaven's subtleties of touch, unwearying forced, more vivid raptures than earth's life can bear. What would be suffering here was fiery bliss. All here but passionate hint and mystic shade, divined by the inner prophet who perceives the spirit of delight in sensuous things, turned to more sweetness than can now be dreamed. The mighty signs of which art fears the stress, trembling because she cannot understand, and must keep obscure in forms strange and sublime, were here the first lexicon of an infinite mind, translating in the language of eternal bliss. Here rapture was a common incident, the loveliness of whose captured thrill our human pleasure is a fallen thread, lay, symbol shapes, a careless ornament, sewn on the rich brocade of Godhead's dress. Things fashioned were the imaged homes where mind arrived to fathom a deep physical joy. The heart was a torch lit from infinity. The limbs were trembling densities of soul. These were the first domains, the outer courts, immense, but least in range and least in price, the slightest ecstasies of the undying gods. Higher her swing of vision swept, and new, admitted through large sapphire opening gates into the whiteness of a light beyond. These were but sumptuous decorated doors to worlds nobler, more felicitously fair. Endless aspired the climbing of those heavens. Realm upon realm received a soaring view. Then, on what seemed one crown of the ascent, where finite and the infinite are one, immune she beheld the strong immortals' seats, who live for a celestial joy and rule the middle regions of the unfading ray. Great forms of deities sat in deathless tears, eyes of an unborn gaze towards her leaned through a transparency of crystal fire. In the beauty of bodies wrought from rapturous lines, shapes of entrancing sweetness, stilling bliss, feet glimmering upon the sunstone courts of mine, heaven's cupbearers bore round the eternal swine. A tangle of bright bodies, of moved souls, tracing the close and intertwined delight, the harmonious trade of lives, forever joined in the passionate oneness of a mystic joy, as if sunbeams made living and divine, the golden-bosomed Apsara goddesses, in groves flooded from an argent disk of bliss that floated through a luminous sapphire dream, in a cloud of raiment lit with golden limbs and gleaming footfalls, treading fairy swords, virgin motions of vacant innocences, who know their riot for a dance of God, whirled, linked in moonlit revels of the heart. Impeccable artists of unerring forms, magician builders of sound and rhythmic words, wind-haired Gandharvas chanted to the ear the odes that shape the universal thought, the lines that tear the veil from deity's face, the rhythms that bring the sounds of wisdom's sea. Immortal figures and illumined brows, our great forefathers in those splendors moved, timeless in power and satisfied of light, they enjoyed the sense of all for which we strive. High seers, moved poets, saw the eternal thoughts that travelers from on high arrived to us, deformed by our search, tricked by costuming mind, like gods disfigured by the pangs of birth, seized the great words which now are frail sounds caught by difficult rapture on a mortal tongue. The strong who stumble and sin were calm, proud gods. They are lightning filled with glory and with flame, melting in waves of sympathy and sight, smitten like a lyre that throbs to others' bliss, drawn by the chords of ecstasies unknown. Her human nature, faint with heaven's delight, she beheld the clasp to earth denied, and bore the imperishable eyes of veilless love. more climbed above, level to level reached, beyond what tongue can utter or mind dream. Worlds of an infinite reach crowned nature's stir. There was a greater tranquil sweetness there, a subtler and profounder ether's field and mightier scheme than heavenliest sense can give. Their breath carried a stream of seeing mind. Form was a tenuous raiment of the soul. Color was a visible tone of ecstasy. Shapes seen, half immaterial by the gaze, and yet voluptuously palpable, made sensible to touch the indwelling spirit. The high perfected sense, illumined, lived, a happy vessel of the inner ray. Each feeling was the Eternal's mighty child, and every thought was a sweet burning God. Air was a luminous feeling, sound a voice, sunlight the soul's vision, and moonlight its dream. On a wide leaping base of wordless calm, all was a potent and a lucid joy. Into those heights her spirit went, floating up, like an up-soaring bird who mounts unseen, voicing to the ascent his throbbing heart of melody, till a pause of closing wings comes quivering in his last contented cry, and he is silent, with his soul discharged, delivered of his heart's burden of delight. Experience mounted on joy's coloured breast to inaccessible spheres in spiral flight. There time dwelt with eternity as one, immense felicity joined rapt repose. As one drowned in a sea of splendour and bliss, mute in the maze of these surprising worlds, turning she saw their living knot and source, key to their charm and fount of their delight, and knew him for the same who snares our lives, captured in his terrifying pitiless net, and makes the universe his prison camp, and makes in his immense and vacant vast the labour of the stars a circuit vain, and death the end of every human road, and grief and pain the wages of man's toil. One whom her soul had faced as death and night, as sum of all sweetness gathered into his limbs, and blinded her heart to the beauty of the suns. Transfigured was the formidable shape. His darkness and his sad destroying might, abolishing forever and disclosing the mystery of his high and violent deeds, a secret splendour rose, revealed to sight, where once the vast embodied void had stood. Night, the dim mask, had grown a wonderful face. The vague infinity was slain, whose gloom had outlined from the terrible unknown the obscure, disastrous figure of a god. Fled was the era that arms the hands of grief, and lighted the ignorant gulf, whose hollow deeps had given to nothingness a dreadful voice. As when, before the eye that wakes in sleep, is opened the sombre binding of a book, illumined letterings are seen, which kept a golden blaze of thought inscribed within, a marvelous form responded to her gaze, whose sweetness justified life's blindest pain. All nature's struggle was its easy price. The universe and its agony seemed worthwhile, as if the choric calyx of a flower, aerial, visible on music's waves, a lotus of light-petaled ecstasy, took shape out of the tremulous heart of things. There was no more the torment under the stars, the evil sheltered behind nature's mask. There was no more the dark pretense of hate, the cruel rictus on love's altered face. Hate was the grip of a dreadful amorous strife, a ruthless love, intent only to possess, has here replaced the sweet original God. Forgetting the will to love that gave it birth, the passion to lock itself in and to unite, it would swallow all into one lonely self, devouring the soul that it had made its own, by suffering an annihilation's pain, punishing the unwillingness to be one, angry with the refusals of the world, passionate to take, but knowing not how to give. Death's sombre cowl was cast from nature's brow. There lightened on her the goddess' lurking love. All grace and glory and all divinity were here collected in a single form. All worshipped eyes looked through his from one face. He bore all godheads in his grandiose limbs. An oceanic spirit dwelt within, intolerant and invincible in joy, a flood of freedom and transcendent bliss. Into immortal lines of beauty rose. In him, the fourfold being bore its crown. That was the mystery of a nameless name. The universe, writing its tremendous sense in the inexhaustible meaning of a word. In him, the architect of the visible world, at once the art and artist of his works, spirit and seer and thinker of things seen, Virat, who lights his campfires in the suns, and the star-entangled ether is his whole, expressed himself with matter for his speech. Objects are his letters, forces are his words, events are the crowded history of his life, and sea and land are the pages of his tale. Matter is his means and his spiritual sign. He hangs the thought upon a lassus lift in the current of the blood, makes flow the soul. His is the dumb will of atom and of clod, a will that without sense or motive acts, an intelligence needing not to think or plan. The world creates itself invincibly, for its body is the body of the Lord, and in its heart stands Virat, King of Kings. In him shadows his form, the golden child, who in the sun-kept vast cradles his birth. Hiranyagarbha, author of thoughts and dream, who sees the invisible and hears the sounds that never visited a mortal ear. Discoverer of unthought realities, truer to truth than all we have ever known, he is the leader on the inner roads. A seer, he has entered the forbidden realms, a magician with the omnipotent wand of thought. He builds the secret, uncreated worlds. Armed with the golden speech, the diamond eye, his is the vision and the prophecy. Imagist, casting the formless into shape, traveller and hewer of the unseen paths, he is the carrier of the hidden fire. He is the voice of the ineffable. He is the invisible hunter of the light, the angel of mysterious ecstasies, the conqueror of the kingdoms of the soul. A third spirit stood behind, their hidden cause, a mass of superconscience closed in light, creator of things in his all-knowing sleep. All from his stillness came, as grows a tree. He is our seed and core, our head and base. All light is but a flash from his closed eyes, and always truth is mystic in his heart. The omniscient ray is shut behind his lids. He is the wisdom that comes not by thought. His wordless silence brings the immortal world. He sleeps in the atom and the burning star. He sleeps in man and God and beast and stone. Because he is there, the inconscient does its work. Because he is there, the world forgets to die. He is the center of the circle of God. He is the circumference of nature's run. His slumber is an almightiness in things. Awake, he is the eternal and supreme. Above was the brooding bliss of the infinite, its omniscient and omnipotent repose, its immobile silence, absolute and alone. All powers were woven in countless concords here. The bliss that made the world in his body lived. Love and delight were the head of the sweet form. In the alluring meshes of their snare, recaptured the proud, blissful members held, all joys, outrunners of the panting heart, and fugitive from life's outstripped desire. Whatever vision has escaped the eye, whatever happiness comes in dream and trance, the nectar spilled by love with trembling hands, the joy the cup of nature cannot hold, had crowded to the beauty of his face, were waiting in the honey of his love. Things hidden by the silence of the hours, the ideas that find no voice on living lips, the soul's pregnant meeting with infinity, had come to birth in him and taken fire. The secret whisper of the flower and star revealed its meaning in his fathomless look. His lips curved eloquent, like a rose of dawn. His smile, that played with the wonder of the mind, and stayed in the heart when it had left his mouth, glimmered with the radiance of the morning star, gemming the wide discovery of heaven. His gaze was the regard of eternity. The spirit of its sweet and calm intent was a wise home of gladness, and divulged the light of the ages in the mirth of the hours, a sun of wisdom in a miracled grove. In the orchestral largeness of his mind, all contrary seekings their close kinship knew. Rich-hearted, wonderful to each other, met in the mutual marbling of their myriad notes, and dwelt like brothers of one family, who had found their common and mysterious home. As from the harp of some ecstatic god, there springs a harmony of lyric bliss, striving to leave no heavenly joy unsung. Such was the life in that embodied light. He seemed the whiteness of a boundless sky. He seemed the passion of a sorrowless earth. He seemed the burning of a world-wide sun. Two looked upon each other. Soul saw soul.